Hey guys, it's Chris with CC Fishing and Bank Bassin website. I wanted to talk to you guys today, just real quick, about some of the stuff that I do to catch a lot more fish when it comes to pond fishing or small lake fishing and such forth. There's a lot of articles out there that they cover a wide variety of mainly lake fishing, but what I found is when you're on a budget like I am, and there's not a huge availability to get out to some of the bigger lakes because it's just not as cheap as it used to be and such forth. Uh, I end up doing a lot of bank fishing and kayak fishing. So I've come up with a few things that I wanted to share with you guys today that might help you catch more fish on a budget. So the first thing that I can say for certain is to definitely downsize your baits. Most of the time, people are going to throw, when referring to soft plastics, they're going to throw anywhere between a 6 and an 8-inch worm, whether it be a lizard, straight, curly, flat, fluke. They're going to go with the bigger stuff instead of something that's a little bit downsized. That works great for places like Fork and Toledo Bend and such forth. You can catch 5 to 6 pounders on them all day long, well, mostly. But when it comes to these area lakes and these smaller ponds and such forth, they're not used to seeing stuff that big. Sure, you may get lucky every now and again and be in the right place at the right time, throwing the right color, and something will hit that bigger bait, but it's going to greatly reduce the amount of catches that you actually make. So I'm going to cover some of the little tips and tricks that I do today, and I've been doing for years, and I've got a little bonus for you at the end. It's a secret that I use quite regularly when the fishing gets a little bit tough, or I just want to fish real easy instead of putting a lot of pressure. So the first thing is downside your soft plastics. I don't carry anything bigger than a 6-inch of anything in my tackle bag, period. I just won't do it because when I'm fishing these smaller places, they're not going to hit something that big. It's going to intimidate them, mainly because the fish in those ponds aren't big. You just have to face the facts. Most pond bass, unless you get into some private areas or such forth like that, they're not going to have big bass in them. And if they do, there's going to be 1 or 2 that are going to be in the 4 to 5 pound range. Very rarely will you get a bass that's going to be over 6 to 7 pounds that's going to be in these small confined areas. They just don't have the room to get that big. So this is one of my secrets, or my tips, is 4-inch. This is just a standard 4-inch soft plastic worm. Nothing special about it. You can see it's kind of hard to see. It's just got a little curly tail on it. This I throw all the time in just about any pond, and it constantly produces. There is no ifs, ands, ors, or buts. This is one of my go-to baits. If nothing else is working, I will pretty much always have one of these on hand or ready to go. You can find these all over the place. I know Bass Pro sells them. They're a little bit more expensive there. You can even go to Walmart and they have some generic knockoffs. Now they're not as tough, but they have some generics, and this actually came from Bass Pro. You can see how old this bag is. It's how long they've lasted me. I buy 2 or 3 bags at a time, a couple bucks each, 3, maybe $4 each, and they last you a couple of seasons. But these come in handy, especially when you Texas rig it. I don't really rig these any other way, maybe weightless, but then the curly tail doesn't really get to do its job by twisting and making a lot of commotion when you fish weightless. Maybe a 1/4 ounce. An 1/8 ounce is usually what I throw with this, so some bait casters are going to have some difficulty, especially if your rod is really heavy, like a medium heavy to heavy. You're not going to be able to chunk this thing. You're going to have to ease up the tension on the rod and go with like a medium, maybe a medium heavy with a fast tip. You might be able to get away with it. And the hooks that I use are these. You got VMC. They're 2-aught. I don't know if that's coming in very clear or not, but it says 2-aught right here. And these I just happened to pick up at Cabela's today. These are really great hooks. I love the VMC brand. I have a bunch of others, and I don't have any problems with any brands, and they've all worked well for me in the past. But these VMC hooks I found for the money are really, really good hooks. They don't straighten out. You'll break your knot before you break a hook. I've actually put these to the test a few times against some of the other hooks that I bought like in bulk from Academy or Walmart. These do not break. I've actually tried to cut the head off of one of these once, trying to make a contraption of my own, and my pair of pliers bent. The hook didn't. It stayed true. So, very good. But anyways, I would use the hook and just Texas rig it and then poke the tip back down so that it's weedless. And another little added benefit of these hooks, I'm going to try and see if you can see it. On the hook itself, the hook part, yeah, there it is, you can see it's got a double barb. So if you can get both barbs in, you got them. They're not going to get away very easily. Now when I fish like Senkos and such, anything that I'm going to wacky rig, I'm going to usually use a wacky rig hook or an octopus hook of some sort. And again, VMC hooks, but I go with a 1/0. I don't do a 2/0 very often. I do have some 2/0 and 3/0s, but I find that they weight the bait down so much that it just sinks and it doesn't allow that wobble. It doesn't wobble on the way down like you want. It just kind of sinks. So I find that a 2 or a 3/0 hook doesn't allow you to fish it as slow and as finesse as you want, because the way that I do it is I chunk it out there and I let it sink down a little bit, and then I give it some twitches just so that it wobbles, it just do, and then just kind of flutters back down. I like it to fish stick bait as slow as I possibly can. These hooks are really good. They're a little bit thicker than some of the other 1/0 hooks that you can buy. I was actually looking at the Owner hooks, and the Owner hooks aren't as thick. I don't know if they're made out of the same material. Not bashing Owner by any means, but these are the hooks that I've been using for a while, and I had a couple others, and I just happen to like these better. My personal preference. But remember, when you're throwing a stick bait like a Senko, don't throw a big one. You know, these 6 to 8 inch Senkos, they're not going to cut it in a small pond. Or even if you get into these small lakes that you can kayak in, you're going to have trouble catching a large quantity of bass. Now, if you are throwing big, the bigger 6 to 8 inch Senkos, you're probably going to get quality bites, which means the bass are going to be 3 pounds, maybe even more, because that looks like a meal to them. These smaller fish, it doesn't look like a meal. That looks like something invading their space, and they're going to bolt. I have seen it happen so many times. I have the same color and a 6 inch. I pitch it out there, even wacky rigged, and they take off from it. I put a 4 inch on in the same exact color. It hits the water and they stare at it. I catch more doing that. And finally, for the secret that I'm going to give away is, I'll tell you how I fish these, but I'm going to show it to you first. It's these guys. This is a power bait minnow. It doesn't look like much. This is the 2 inch. They come in 3 and 4 inch. I don't know if they come any bigger, but that's all I've seen is 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. This guy right here catches me a ton of bass. A ton of bass of all sizes. And it's also caught perch and catfish as well. Haven't tried it on crappie yet. But what makes these so special, and you can see, here's the packages that they come in. So you can see, this is what you're going to look for if you choose to buy something like this. They're not that expensive, and you get a pretty good amount for them. There's 18 in this little package. Even the 3 inch, I think you get about 15, and they're like $3.50 per package at Cabela's. So really not that bad, and I think you can buy them at Walmart too. Not sure about that one though. What I'll do with these guys is I'll either use, if I'm targeting really small bass, like under 10 inches, like if I'm going out to Bethany Lakes to where I know most of the bass are going to be between 10 and 14 inches, I don't need a strong super hook. I don't need anything this size. Matter of fact, I don't even need anything this size. I can downsize to a much smaller hook. I could put even a crappie jig on here and just like a bare crappie hook with a weighted head and slip it through, and you can cast it out, you can bounce it off the bottom, because bouncing it off that bottom, that tail, because it's split, it gives a lot of action. You can see I'm barely moving it, and you can see this thing will just, it slides back and forth. I mean, it just wiggles like crazy, which that's what attracts most of the fish. What I like to do with them, that's one of the ways that I fish it. What I like to do is I will take one of my smaller octopus hooks or wacky rig hooks, even this size, the 1/0 will work well for this. And I'll take the hook and I'll open hook it and I'll go straight through the body here, right under, like, there's like little gill plates. It's really hard to see in the video, but if you pull one out, you'll be able to tell what I'm looking for. And I'll hook it through so that the hook point comes up like that. And I'll just go straight through the body and out the top and have the hook completely exposed. I do not put any weight on it. And then what I'll do is, if I can use like a spinning reel or something along those lines, I'll toss it out there and I'll just let it hit the water and just kind of slowly sink and then just twitch. And this thing will dart like crazy. That's one way. The other way is I will actually put a bobber stopper on my line. Or not a bobber stopper, but a weight stopper. You can buy them, they're like little rubber things. You add to the line and they make your weight slide back and forth. Well, I'll actually use a weighted bobber and I'll slide that weight stopper up depending upon the depth. And this works really great for suspended bass. Depending upon the depth you want to get to, if you're fishing in 5 to 6 feet of water, I'll put the stop about 3 feet up. And then I'll add a weighted bobber to the top of it, just above that bobber stop, so it hits that. It doesn't pinch the line, doesn't do anything, it slides back and forth so that there's no stress on your line. And then just cast it out, let it hit the water, give it about 15 to 20 seconds so that it can sink all the way down. And when it gets to its optimal level, all you got to do is you can either just pull, just like slowly pull the line so that the bobber kind of starts reeling in some. And what that does is that makes that minnow swing up and then down. Another method that I use is the same thing, but I'll pop the bobber. Almost like I'd be working a top water, but I'd wait a little bit longer in between twitches. So it's a pop and then wait. And what that does is that gets that bobber turned sideways, which in turns pulls the lure, this little minnow, up. And what will happen is you pop that bobber and this minnow will dart up and then flutter back down. And then it'll dart back up and then flutter back down. It's usually when I get the most strikes. And a lot of times the bass don't this is one of those things that you'll have to watch your bobber constantly. Because the bass are either going to take off with it and your bobber is just going to go under, or they just clamp on and they just sit there for a minute. I've had so many times to where I started reeling and then just felt tension. And it wasn't grass or the bottom or anything like that. So it's one of those things that you got to pay attention for. And that's why I also like using the circle hooks, so they can't choke it down. If they choke one of these guys down, and you got any other hook besides something like that in there, it's going to be tough to get out. You definitely don't want to be killing the fish. So there you have it. Those are my secrets, and that's my main secret. And this is how I catch so many bass most of the time. I will be making more videos, so tune in and please comment. And for the YouTube viewers, please subscribe. We'll see what requests I get. Feel free to respond with any questions that you have or any remarks. I'm open to talk about anything, and I will do my best. There's some secrets that I'm not ready to reveal yet, but that'll be in time.